Hello, this video deals with using OpenSSH to forward defined ports. In the previous video we saw how to use OpenSSH as a basic shell client. In this video we will forward a remote port locally, then forward a local port remotely, and finally make either port available from remote systems. One extremely useful piece of functionality is the ability to forward ports from the remote system to your local system or vice versa. Let's see how we can do it. Forward a remote port locally using SSH-L 8000.168.1.12380. The -L option allows you to make a remote port available locally. The arguments are bind_address port:/host:/host port. In our example, we're logging into a remote system and then forwarding port 80 on 192.168.1.123 of your local system. This means that if you connect your web browser to localhost port 8000, you will actually be hitting the server on 192.168.1.123. This is useful for accessing resources behind a firewall or just changing the network your connection is established from. Note that if you're specifically using this for a web server, you may need to play tricks with your host files or ports in order to work around web applications that expect the error host header or attempt to redirect your connection to a specific port. You'll also want to note that binding to local ports under 1024 require that you run as root, which is why we've forwarded port 80 to port 8000 locally. Forward a local port remotely, -R 5000, localhost 22. If you need to make it available on port 80 instead, you will need to run as root using sudo. The -R option works the same way with the same arguments, but makes a local network port accessible on the remote side instead. In our example, we're taking localhost port 22 and making it available on port 5000 on the remote system. This would allow users of the remote system to log into your local system by specifying port 5000 to their SSH client. Make either port available from remote systems with the -G. Good job. Now let's see how it works. The default behavior for both of these commands is to bind to a local host so that only local users may have access to connect to the remote resource. This may be changed with the -G option, which tells SSH client to bind to all addresses instead, making the forwarded port available to anyone who is able to establish a connection to it. Be sure that you fully understand the security implications of this option before you use it. Fantastic! In this video we dealt with using OpenSSH to forward defined ports. In our next video we will deal with using OpenSSH as a SOCKS proxy.